In the world of Marvel movies, the name Wade Wilson belongs to a wisecracking hero. But in the real world, in 2026, that same name belongs to a man the state of Florida calls a monster. You've seen his face, the hollow eyes, the jagged teeth tattooed across his mouth, and that chillingly calm smirk. Wade Wilson, the so-called Deadpool killer, isn't just another inmate on death row. He has become a viral phenomenon, a dark heartthrob for a twisted online cult, and the subject of the hit 2026 documentary Handsome Devil. But behind the fan mail and the TikTok edits lies a story so brutal it shocked even the most veteran detectives. Why is the world still obsessed with him? And what is happening inside Union Correctional right now that could change his fate? It's March 2026, and Wade Wilson is trending higher than most A-list celebrities. The release of the 3-part docuseries Handsome Devil, Charming Killer has reignited a firestorm. It explores a terrifying concept, hybristophilia, the attraction to those who commit gruesome crimes. Despite being a convicted double murderer, Wilson receives thousands of letters and even marriage proposals. To his fans, he's a misunderstood soul with a tragic past. To the families of his victims, this online obsession is a second nightmare. But to understand the charm, we have to look at the carnage he left behind in Cape Coral. The nightmare began in October 2019. Wade Wilson met 35-year-old Christine Melton at a live music bar. To Christine, he was just a guy with a few tattoos and a smooth way of talking. They went back to her home. She thought she was safe. But while she slept, the handsome devil showed his true face. Wilson strangled Christine in her own bed, ending her life for no reason other than, in his own words, the sake of killing. He didn't stop there. He stole her car and set out into the Florida night, looking for his next target. Just hours later, Wilson spotted 43-year-old Diane Ruiz. She was a mother of two, simply walking to work. Wilson pulled over, asked for directions, and lured her into the stolen car. What happened next was so violent it left the courtroom in tears during his trial. Wilson strangled Diane, but when he realized she was still breathing, he did the unthinkable. He pushed her out of the car and ran her over repeatedly until, as he told his own father, she looked like spaghetti. It wasn't a crime of passion. It was a cold-blooded demonstration of pure, unfiltered evil. Most killers try to hide. Wade Wilson wanted an audience. Shortly after the murders, he called his biological father, Stephen Testaseca. Stephen hadn't been in Wade's life much, but Wade wanted to brag. He detailed the murders with a terrifying lack of emotion. His father, horrified by what he was hearing, didn't hesitate. He contacted the authorities. Within hours, the man with the Deadpool name was in handcuffs. But as the world was about to find out, the arrest was only the beginning of the Wade Wilson show. Wade Wilson's case is a chilling look at how social media can turn a killer into a celebrity. We are tracking his 2026 Supreme Court appeal and the secret letters he's sending from prison. If you want the truth behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're diving into his psychological profile next, and you won't believe what the doctors found in his brain. Let's keep going. When Wilson appeared in court, he didn't look like the man who committed the crimes in 2019. He had transformed his face into a mask of death. Swastikas under his eyes, ha 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 etched into his skin, and a jawline covered in tattooed teeth. Experts say this was a deliberate choice to intimidate the jury and project a supervillain persona. It worked. He looked like a character from a nightmare, but beneath the ink, his defense team argued there was a broken machine. They claimed Wade Wilson wasn't just evil, he was brain damaged. During the trial, a neurologist testified that Wade's brain scans showed significant trauma. They argued that years of drug abuse combined with head injuries had rewired his brain, making him impulsive and unable to control his violent urges. The defense wanted the jury to see him as a victim of his own biology. But the prosecution had a different take. They argued that Wade knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't kill because he was broken. He killed because he enjoyed the power. The jury had to decide, was he a sick man or a handsome devil who chose to be a monster? This is the moment that launched 1,000 TikToks. While the prosecutor described how Diane Ruiz was crushed by a car, Wade Wilson sat there and smirked. He winked at the cameras. He looked like he was at a movie premiere rather than a murder trial. This soulless demeanor is what created his dark fanbase. People became obsessed with his lack of remorse. They saw a rebel instead of a killer. This smirk is a major theme in the 2026 documentary. A psychologist tried to figure out if he was performing for the fans he knew were watching online. In August 2024, the game of smirks came to an end. Judge Nicholas Thompson didn't care about Wade's viral fame or his tattooed grin. Following the jury's recommendation, the judge handed down 2 death sentences. He called the crimes heinous, atrocious, and cruel. Wilson's reaction? Nothing. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He simply looked at the judge and said he would make his statement when he is back. It was a defiant, final act for the cameras. But getting back is much harder than Wade Wilson realized. Today, in early 2026, Wade Wilson is inmate #V45368 at Union Correctional Institution. He is no longer the center of a crowded courtroom. He is one of over 300 men on Florida's death row. His life is now a 6-by-9-foot cell. He spends 23 hours a day in total isolation. No fans, no cameras, no TikTok. But while he sits in the shadows of Rayford, his legal team is working on a Hail Mary that has the entire state of Florida on edge. They are taking his case to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the reason why might actually work. For a man who lived for the spotlight, Union Correctional is a living tomb. Wade Wilson is now housed in Unit P, the high-security wing reserved for those the state of Florida has marked for death. There are no ha-ha-ha jokes here. His world has shrunk to a concrete box. He is allowed one small television, but he has no internet, no social media, and no way to see the thousands of fan edits made in his honor. The transition from viral superstar to inmate #V45368 has been a brutal reality check. In here, the tattoos that made him famous on TikTok make him a target for the old guard, the lifers who have been on the row for decades and don't care about his internet fame. Life on Florida's death row is a test of sanity. Wilson spends 23 hours a day inside his cell. His only recreation is 1 hour in a small, fenced-in outdoor cage, often alone. He eats every meal through a slot in the door. There is no communal dining hall, no gym time with other inmates, and no physical contact with the outside world. To his followers, he is a misunderstood rebel, but to the guards, he is a high-risk asset. Every time he leaves his cell, he is strip-searched and shackled at the wrists, waist, and ankles. The Deadpool persona is stripped away, replaced by the mechanical routine of a man waiting for a needle. Even in total isolation, the cult of Wade Wilson found a way in. Throughout 2025, the mailroom at Union Correctional was overwhelmed. Thousands of letters, photographs, and even money orders poured in from around the globe. Some women sent scented letters, others sent photos of themselves at the crime scenes, a disturbing trend known as true crime pilgrimage. This created a security crisis. The prison administration had to implement a strict digital mail policy, where Wilson only sees scanned copies of his letters on a tablet. He isn't allowed to keep the physical paper, a move designed to prevent contraband from entering the wing, but it also serves to break the emotional connection his fans are desperately trying to build. But Wade hasn't gone quietly. Internal disciplinary reports from late 2025 suggest he is struggling with the silence of the row. He has been written up multiple times for disrespect to officials and inciting other inmates by shouting through the vents. There are also reports of him attempting to use other inmates' PIN numbers to make unmonitored phone calls. It seems the man who smirked at a judge can't handle being ignored. These infractions are critical. They are often used by the state to argue against any form of clemency later on. Every time Wade acts out for a bit of attention, he is effectively tightening the knot on his own rope. We're about to get into the secret appeal, the one legal loophole that could actually save Wade Wilson's life. But first, I want to hear from you. After seeing the brain scans and his behavior in court, do you believe Wade is a victim of his own biology? Or is he just a master manipulator playing a character? Type brain or evil in the comments. I'm going through the most detailed responses to feature in our next community update. Let's look at the legal Hail Mary that's happening right now in 2026. The key to Wade Wilson's survival isn't his fans. It's a legal precedent known as Hearst versus Florida. In Florida, A jury doesn't have to be unanimous to recommend the death penalty. In Wade's case, the jury voted 9-3 for death for Christine Melton and 10-2 for Diane Ruiz. His lawyers are now taking this to the Supreme Court, arguing that a split jury should never be allowed to take a life. They believe that if they can prove his due process was violated by a non-unanimous vote, his death sentence could be commuted to life without parole. It's a technicality, but in the world of the Supreme Court, technicalities are everything. Along with the jury issue, his team has filed a new motion in 2026 claiming intellectual disability. Under U.S. law, you cannot execute someone with a significantly low IQ or severe brain impairment. They are pointing back to those MRI scans from the trial, claiming that Wade's brain is so damaged from fetal alcohol syndrome and multiple concussions that he lacks the moral culpability for his crimes. It's a controversial move that has the victims' families furious. They argue that Wade was smart enough to loot 2 women, steal cars, and hide evidence, actions that require a high level of planning and awareness. As the appeal moves forward, the public backlash against the Handsome Devil documentary has reached a boiling point. Many are accusing the filmmakers of beautifying a killer for profit. The 2026 victims' rights movement has gained massive traction, with many calling for a Son of Sam-style law that would prevent any media company from profiting off Wade Wilson's image. This social climate is working against him. While his online cult grows, the silent majority is pushing back, demanding that the state carry out his sentence as quickly as possible to end the media circus he thrives on. In Florida, once an execution warrant is signed by the governor, the inmate is moved to death watch. This is a separate cell closer to the execution chamber. He would be monitored 24/7 by a special team of guards. For Wade Wilson, this is the ultimate countdown. His fans are already planning vigils for when this day comes, but the reality inside is far more somber. The death watch cell is stripped of all personal items. No TV, no tablet, no letters. It is a place of absolute reflection, where the ha-ha-ha tattoos finally lose their meaning. One of the strangest developments in 2026 is the digital ghost of Wade Wilson. Fans have used AI to create chatbots that mimic his voice and personality. People are literally dating a digital version of a death row inmate. It's a level of obsession that experts say is unprecedented. It allows Wade to remain alive and active in the digital world even while he sits in a concrete box in Rayford. This ghost version of him is what keeps the hashtags trending and ensures that every time a new legal motion is filed, it goes viral within minutes. So, where do we stand? As we head into the summer of 2026, the Florida Supreme Court is expected to rule on the unanimous jury appeal. If they reject it, Wade Wilson will have exhausted almost all of his standard appeals. The smirk he wore in court might finally be replaced by the realization that his time is up. But if the court agrees with his lawyers, it would be the biggest true crime upset in a decade. The world is waiting, the victims' families are praying for justice, and Wade Wilson is just sitting in his cell, waiting to see if his handsome devil luck has finally run out. Just weeks ago, on February 5, 2026, the Wade Wilson case took a turn that left court observers stunned. His legal team appeared before the Florida Supreme Court for what was expected to be a grueling oral argument. Instead, the hearing lasted only minutes. His lead attorney, Michael Ufferman, made a strategic move that signaled a massive shift in their game plan. He chose not to argue against the existing Florida precedents. Why? Because he wasn't trying to win in Florida anymore. He was officially preserving the record to take Wade Wilson's life-or-death struggle all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. The core of this 2026 battle is a legal concept called ex post facto. When Wade Wilson committed his crimes in 2019, Florida law required a unanimous jury to sentence someone to death. But by the time he was sentenced in 2024, the law had changed to allow an 8-4 majority. Wilson's lawyers are arguing that the state essentially changed the rules of the game after it had already started. They believe that applying a 2023 law to a 2019 crime is unconstitutional. If the U.S. Supreme Court agrees, Wade Wilson's death sentence wouldn't just be paused, it would be illegal. While the lawyers fight in court, the public is consuming the January 2026 release of Handsome Devil, Charming Killer on Paramount+. The documentary has only fueled the fire. It reveals never-before-seen footage of Wade's life before the tattoos, a man who was once a star athlete and a charismatic friend. This contrast has created a massive empathy gap online. Younger viewers who didn't follow the 2019 news are seeing a character rather than a killer. But the documentary also gives a voice to the victims' families, who warn that every like and share on a Wade Wilson video is a slap in the face to the women he brutally took away. There has been significant confusion about where Wade is actually being held. In July 2025, he was briefly moved to Suwanee Correctional, a prison without a dedicated death row. This sparked rumors that his sentence had already been commuted. But by late 2025, records confirmed he was back at Union Correctional in Rayford. This prison shuffling is common for high-profile inmates who become targets for other prisoners or who struggle with the psychological toll of isolation. At Union, he is back among the most dangerous, a place where his viral fame offers no protection. In early 2026, reports surfaced of a clemency petition being prepared for Governor Ron DeSantis. While thousands of fans have signed online petitions, the legal reality is grim. DeSantis has been one of the most active governors in modern history when it comes to signing death warrants. He famously pushed for the very law that allowed Wilson to be sentenced without a unanimous jury. For Wade, asking for clemency from the man who paved the way for his execution is the ultimate irony. It is a Hail Mary with almost zero chance of success, yet his fans cling to it as if it's a certainty. We are at the final stage of the Wade Wilson saga. His life now depends on 9 justices in Washington, D.C. If you want to stay updated on the U.S. Supreme Court's decision, you need to be part of this community. Comment verdict below if you want me to do a live stream the moment his final appeal is decided. And if you haven't yet, share this video. People need to see the side of the handsome devil that the TikTok edits leave out. 2 years on death row changes a man. Sources close to the facility suggest that the smirking Wade Wilson from the 2024 trial is slowly being replaced by a more withdrawn version. The Deadpool persona requires an audience, and in the 23-hour lockdown of Rayford, there is no one to perform for. Psychologists who study death row inmates call this death row syndrome, a state of mental deterioration caused by the looming shadow of the execution date. The tattoos are fading, the fans are digital, but the concrete is very real. While the internet argues over Wade's brain scans, the city of Cape Coral remembers the women he killed. Christine Melton's family has become vocal advocates for victims' rights, ensuring that their loved one isn't remembered as just a footnote in a viral case. Diane Ruiz's children are now young adults, living with the trauma of a day that changed their lives forever. Their fight isn't for likes or views, it's for finality that only the legal system can provide. To them, Wade Wilson isn't a handsome devil. He is the reason there's an empty chair at every holiday. If the U.S. Supreme Court denies his final petition, the process is swift. In Florida, execution is by lethal injection. The death watch period begins, a final meal is served, and a man who spent his life chasing infamy is led to a small room with green curtains. The irony is that the name Deadpool was chosen for a character who couldn't die. But for the real Wade Wilson, the legal system is designed to ensure that the story ends here. There are no sequels on death row. We are now in the final months of the Wade Wilson show. The 2026 Supreme Court decision will be the series finale. It will decide if the ex post facto loophole is enough to save a man who admitted to running over a woman until she looked like spaghetti. It will decide if a billionaire-funded legal team and a viral fan base can beat the Florida justice system. The clock is ticking, the world is watching, and the handsome devil is finally out of tricks. Wade Wilson remains one of the most polarizing figures in criminal history. Whether you see a broken man or a cold-blooded monster, his case has changed how we look at crime in the age of social media. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. For the latest on the Supreme Court ruling and the fallout from the Handsome Devil documentary, stay tuned. And this is the end of the line for the Deadpool killer.